So we were the early days of Fort Bonifacio, and we had just sold quite a large parcel. So we were starting the development, and we were hoping that there will be some buildings to come up, and we were deciding that we should walk the talk, right? So I was busy selling the lots. I was privileged enough to buy a lot, and we decided to put the first high-rise building here. And truth to be told, it was a hard selling job to convince people where they were flying kites, where you could see nothing but green spaces, that is going to be the city of the future. People didn't notice that all the utilities were underground, so you didn't see much, but everything was already built in from the very start. Your fiber optic lines, your tunnels to bring in some pedestrians and vehicular. So a lot was put in early on. And I knew all of that, but I said people just have to trust and see the city as it built out. So we're very happy that it's been very successful.
Thought-provoking conversations with the people shaping our country. We uncover stories behind the headlines with influential voices from the Philippines and beyond. This is Manila Bulletin's The Sit Down.
Hi, welcome to another episode of the Manila Bulletin Sit Down. My name's Philip Kunhing, columnist at the Manila Bulletin, and I have with me today.
I'm Lena Madora, editor, Environment and Sustainability.
And today we have two very special guests. So we have on hand Mr. Charlie Rufino and Mr. Raymond Rufino. And today has a very special significance in terms of our episode because we're talking sustainability and we're going to find out from a biochemistry kind of angle does sustainability gene actually exist, because we're seeing today two generations of how sustainability is championed within one company and how it sort of progresses and evolves in the course of these generations. So I'd like to ask Len to throw the first question to Mr. Rufino.
Yes, sir, NIO really helped put BGC on the map. Looking back at your move from Makati to BGC, how did the change in location help you as a brand? And what drove that decision? What did that shift mean to the company?
Well, thanks, Len. So I think the biggest thing when we moved to BGC, I was part of the original group that was there with the planning, and we envisioned it to be a really very modern city. And because it was ability to do something from scratch almost, we had a tabula rasa, as they call it. We were able to plan pretty much a city of the future at that time. So therefore, Bonifacio Global City. So what I just wanted to say was we really planned the city to be something that would stand the course of the, time, and it's very much a walkable city.
Okay. And I mentioned something about that sustainability gene. No? How early on did you feel that you had to sort of embrace sustainability and then make it part of the company's DNA?
Well, to be frank, Philip, sustainability was not a very inward when we were doing projects in the 1990s. You know, we had energy crisis and other things, and the buzzword at that time was intelligent buildings. So people wanted buildings to be ready for whatever fiber optics, etc. That you could be resilient in the sense that you had 24-hour generator capability because we had a lot of brownouts in the 90s.
Yeah.
But when we went into Bonifacio, and we decided to really go on sustainability. I remember that it was for many people looking for offices. It was like a box that was there, but they didn't ask any more questions. Just tick the box if you had a sustainability program. But I'm very glad that now it's very, very sophisticated. If that box doesn't get ticked, you don't get considered at all.
Yeah. But was there a particular incident or a particular anecdote you have when you really sort of felt that sustainability had to now really be strongly championed within the company?
Yes, I suppose for us it was very important because all over the world there are huge investments done by portfolio companies. These are people who buy buildings, number of buildings, and they really want it to be sustainable because their investors want it to be sustainable.
Yeah.
So if you don't have the credentials, you will not fit into that elite class of buildings that are considered investable by the with the very large funds abroad. Yeah.
And from seeing that, I guess it became like osmosis, no, Raymond? You just became also a sustainability champion.
Yes. So I'm third generation in the real estate business. And so I think for me, growing up surrounded by real estate projects and construction, I think this idea that this was a business that I didn't start, It was a business that was being carried and passed on from generation to generation. That really stayed with me. And so when I was in my master's in the US, in Colombia, and we were studying real estate development, it really struck me when the professors would say, if you're learning to be a developer, you're training to be a developer, take note that your buildings will be around for 50, 75, 100, and 100 years if you're lucky. The impact that that project will have on the community, the city, the environment is going to be significant over that amount of time. If you are lucky enough to be a developer, you have to accept the responsibility that comes with that. And I think being in a family of real estate developers, that was something I really brought back when I came home and said, to my father back then, that we really should double down. We were already doing some sustainability efforts at that time, but we really should double down on this so that when it comes time for us to pass to the next generation, we can proudly say we've passed on very sustainable, very green buildings onto the next set.
Okay, because when I talk to some of the other companies, sometimes when they talk about their sustainability quotient or their how they imbibe sustainability, it was sometimes even the second generation or the younger generation who was pushing it forward,
Yes.
And sometimes there would even be a resistance. But in your case, you were also a champion on your own, from the beginning. So it was like something that you were handing down to your sons and to his brothers.
Yeah, very much. When I was in the early part of the Bonifacio Global City, we're looking for a sort of like an anchor to put our vision forward, and we relied on a saying that said, land is not inherited from our forefathers, but rather borrowed from our children. So it very talks about sustainability in a very meaningful way.
Yeah, and so that's very much the idea of future proofing, diba?
If I could just share a story, Philip and Len. When we were growing up, my father famously, put a note in the kitchen one day and said, "Guys, our electric bill is too high." He put the electric bill amount, how much it was, and put a line. And then he said, "Guys, I put it in the kitchen, and next month I'm going to check our bill, and it better not be higher than that line." And he used to do that before. He would actually call our attention when the electric bill was too high, because you guys are sleeping too long with aircon, you're turning it on too early. Why are there lights open in rooms where there are no people? He was very strict about reminding us the importance of even simple acts of conserving energy. Of course, he was worried about the bill, but I think this sense where we have to really be proper in the way that we use valuable resources, that was something that I think even before we joined the business, we were learning this growing up already.
Okay.
I really remember that because I have to teach my kids about that too.
Because sustainability should begin at home.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And that's I think one of the major misconceptions pa rin, di ba? Like when you talk sustainability, they always think of it as a big newfangled idea or something that bahala na yung mga malalaking kumpanya
Correct.
to create it. But like what Len was saying, di ba? It really has to start at home.
Yes.
Because it's really part of being responsible for the kind of future you will allow your kids to inherit.
So much of sustainability is about behavior, right? So people like to think about all of this fancy technology or lots of data. That's all important, but it's really about behavior.
Yeah.
If you are able to create a pattern of behavior that is sensitive to the way that you use things, whether it's the power you use, the water you use, the waste packaging of the items that you buy, all of these things, once you start to develop a greater consciousness of how all of these things, if not properly used, have a negative impact on the environment and on people, then if you can change your behavior and start to see the impact of that behavior, then sustainability is just taking that from the individual level and how we would bring that to like building community level. Then that's kind of the journey that you go into.
Okay. And now NEO is actually recognized as a sustainability leader with your entire 7-building portfolio achieving IFC's EDGE Zero Carbon certification. How will you continue building on this legacy while adapting to the evolving needs of modern cities?
So I think for us, when you think about sustainability for buildings, I think there are two major buckets we like to think of: existing buildings and new projects, right?
Yeah.
A lot of developers really like to look at only the new buildings. They have a lot of older buildings, but since they're old and they're there already, let's just be doing the bells and whistles on all of the new buildings. That's very important. So as we plan for future projects, we're already looking at how do we improve the performance of those future projects. But we always like to say, let's not forget our existing buildings. All of our past buildings, they are being used, they are generating impact, they have a carbon footprint. These buildings require a lot of attention as well. So we've been very focused. The Edge Zero Carbon, for example, why we're so proud of that is because it was the first time a developer in the world took all of its existing portfolio and went on this net zero carbon journey and was able to get certified. A lot of companies, they always keep looking at the newer projects. They
Yeah.
don't look at the past projects.
Mhm.
We were very focused on making the case that even if you have old existing buildings, yes, you can make them greener. You can make them zero carbon. It is possible.
Yeah.
And not only possible, possible in the Philippines. Kasi a lot of people would say, ah, that zero carbon, that should only be for first world countries.
Yeah.
It's not a responsibility of countries like the Philippines. But I say no.
Yeah.
We can't play victim all the time. If we want to make a difference, if we want to say that climate change has to be addressed, action needs to be taken, it can't just be them, it has to include us.
Okay.
And so that's what we did with that certification. We want to prove that, yes, existing buildings in the Philippines can be modified, retrofitted,
Yeah.
operated so that they become zero carbon.
But the retrofitting, that's an expense, naturally, di ba? And that buildings already historically been around standing for so long. Doesn't the older generation sometimes feel na, hey, is it worth that expense, Charlie? Or
Well, we do a lot of, I have buildings, some of them 30, 40 years old. So we're doing actually retrofitting. A lot of them come with financing, as you know.
Yeah.
If you're converting, let's say, your air conditioning or your elevator system to something that saves you power, you can get very easy financing terms from many of the banks. Yeah.
Okay.
So we do that. So we tell our condominium corporations, most of them are condominiums. So guys, we have to do this because in the long run, we're extending the life of the equipment and we're getting 40% better efficiency. We've been typically getting 30-40% better efficiency in electricity by converting
and
some
these
of
are
the-
both residential and commercial buildings that
we-
historically the Rufino
yeah,
family.
historically we tend to concentrate on office.
Yeah.
It's easier for us to understand the
Understand.
mindset because everybody's looking at the figures very carefully, and when you do assessments, it's easier to do on a corporate basis. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and then at night you don't have to think about the building, di ba?
Exactly.
Because it's not
We can
people
do some
living.
work at night.
Yeah.
But it also, there's a payback because a lot of the tenants, if you don't do these retrofits, they will tend to favor newer buildings.
Yeah, and they'll leave.
So because we invested in our older buildings, we have very good occupants. We're able to still attract a lot of tenants even if they're old
Yeah.
because they say, oh, it's not a new building, but we see that you're making investments in sustainability features, in efficiency, keeping the building up to date. So that investment does have a return. I mean, you don't spend for it and don't get it back. You will make it back because the tenants will come and continue to take space in the building.
And we were talking about the Edge Zero Carbon. So that's the one that has to do with the IFC, no?
Yeah.
And the World Bank. Len's going to ask you about the well naman.
Yeah. In addition to EDGE certification, you were actually the first in Southeast Asia to earn the WELL Equity
Yes.
rating. Beyond just getting the award, what did that milestone actually mean for the company?
So diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI, is something that admittedly the real estate industry is very behind on. You see this in a lot of different industries and companies. They're pushing DEI very strongly. But when we look at the real estate sector, unfortunately, we have a lot of work to do. Making our buildings accessible to all, not just people who are able-bodied, but making sure that if you have a handicap, if you have a disability, that you're able to access the buildings, that the buildings are user-friendly for you.
Yeah.
It sounds basic, but it's very often forgotten or treated as a very low priority. So for us, when this came about, I was quite fascinated that the International Well-Building Institute would come out with a rating for equity.
Yeah.
Because in real estate, we're always thinking about technology,
Yeah.
specifications, like, oh, how efficient are you on power, or what is your window wall ratio, all of these different things. When you talk about equity, making sure that everyone who comes to the building is heard, is respected, is welcome, that's not something you see every day. So we were one of the first. When that came out, we said we're one of the first who said we want to participate in this program, and fortunately we were able to do it. It covers not just physical, but even the policies you have in terms
Okay.
of operating the building and the company. Our own policies internally had to be, revised, revamped, and checked so that we comply with the requirements for well equity. So we think it's a great step for us to be able to do our share in
Yeah.
making sure that buildings are not just physical spaces for the few, but they are for the all, right?
And then, yeah, so, well, just for in case the listeners are not sort of that well versed about it, this has to do more, and correct me if I'm wrong, has more to do with the quality of life that anyone entering the building can enjoy.
Yes. And then we try to make that for everybody, right? So
Yeah.
if you're in a wheelchair and then you come access the buildings, you should be able to access the building, easily and not have difficulty,
Yeah.
right? The way that we hire people, we need to make sure that the way that we hire does not, disenfranchise certain groups or certain minorities, things like that. So it carries across from physical access all the way to the policies and procedures you have in managing your people and hiring your people and treating your people, both as guests, visitors, and employees.
Yeah. So, like now, with your leadership approach to Neo, how can you ensure that Neo will always be adapting to these changes, and what are the non-negotiables in terms of how you want to operate the company?
Yeah, it's very challenging because we live in a world today where there's so much pressure, right? Right now we're in the middle of this, inflation crisis, costs are rising.
Yeah.
Office, as you know, we're still struggling with the whole work from home hybrid question of whether people still want to, take big office spaces or whether they'll have people working from home. So very challenging environment. But I think the important thing for us is when we talk about sustainability, it's not just my father, it's not just myself. We really want everyone in the organization to kind of imbibe and embrace that behavior, that mindset to be sustainable, right? And if it's something that we're successful in kind of encouraging everyone in the company to embrace, then it'll start to touch everything that we do. The way that we build new projects, the way that we operate, all of that will now be touched by this lens of sustainability. And that's our big hope, that we can cascade this to our organization so that it's not always us driving it at every level. The employees will take it upon themselves and start doing that as well. I think non-negotiable for us is every single building we either build, own, or acquire in the future will have to have sustainability as an integral part of that building. I think the non-negotiable for us is we will never develop a non-green building.
Okay.
In fact, our family, not under Neo, but our family also developed a data center. Even for that, it was the first data center that has 3 green building certifications.
Okay.
One of the few in the world.
Yeah.
So even in that, it's not even an office building. It's a data center where very few people actually stay there. It's really more for computers, and yet
Yeah.
we insisted that sustainability has to be part of the DNA of that building. So that for us is going to be a must moving forward.
That's a great sort of future vision to look at. And let's sort of look back also in the past in terms of how Neo has developed. And so Len was going to ask
Yes.
Mr. Rufino about
Sir,
crisis.
you've steered the
Yeah.
company through major economic downturns and the global pandemic. What were the defining moments of those times, and what guided your decision making as a leader?
Well, for me, the one that had a very big impact was 1997. They call it the Asian financial crisis.
Oh.
So we were the early days of Fort Bonifacio, and we had just sold quite a large parcel. So we were starting the development, and we were hoping that there will be some buildings to come up. And we were deciding that we should walk the talk, right? So I was busy selling the lots. I was privileged enough to buy a lot, and we decided to put the first high-rise building here. And truth to be told, it was a hard-selling job to convince people where they were flying kites, where you could see nothing but green spaces, that is going to be the city of the future. People didn't notice that all the utilities were underground, so you didn't see much, but everything was
Yes.
already built in from the very start. Your fiber optic lines, your tunnels to bring in some pedestrians and vehicular. So a lot was put in early on. And I knew all of that, but I said people just have to trust and see the city as it built out. So we're very happy that it's been very successful.
Can you imagine 30 years? I remember when my father first talked about Bonifacio and we came here. We said,
It's a military
it looks
base.
nice, but it's just roads and
Yeah.
and green lots, right? There
Yes.
was really not
Yeah.
much to see.
But
When we
yeah.
moved into the first building, we were like, where is everybody everybody else? It was a very different time.
But the plus was location kasi, no?
Mm,
That was always, I'm
yeah.
sure, what you guys saw as a primary asset of whatever it is that would
Mhm.
rise eventually here, no?
It was like in the middle of nowhere. BGC, Fort Bonifacio.
But right beside Makati and
Yes,
and
that's
right
why.
across the
Yes.
river from Ortigas, diba?
Yeah.
So it was this amazing piece of open
Yeah.
area, but bordered by the central business district.
But I'm
Correct.
sure until today you still wish we could widen McKinley Road, right? But
Oh,
it's
don't
impossible.
don't get
But
my
that's
don't get
impossible.
my dad started. He
That's
he,
my
he,
latest pet project.
he
So,
hopes
abangan.
he's hard at work to try to think about some of these. These are some of the things that need to be thought about.
Yeah.
How does access and how does
Thank-
traffic get
Yeah.
addressed for not only for now but for the next 20, 30,
Yeah,
Yes.
50
because I mean,
years, right?
location-wise, like we're saying it's right beside Makati, but then from the C5 side, it's easy
It's-
access. But from Makati side,
Yeah.
it's like
It's-
crazy the traffic
yeah.
that you'll
Yeah.
have to encounter every day. No?
True.
Yeah,
But at
eh,
the same time, you have Manila Golf on one side, you have all these residents on the other side.
well, as you know, it's not only access for cars, but it's also access for the people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
true.
We had a Greenway project that Neo really helped to push. It's along the Manila Golf Course, and
Right.
we didn't think too many people would like to have a kilometer and a half of a
Mm.
green walking space, but now there's
Sure enough.
25,000 people using it every day, and it's one of the
Yes.
highlights. So people
Is it
walk
that
there.
many? 25,000?
Yes,
Fantastic.
that is the count
Wow.
that we were given.
Yeah.
So we were very happy. And then we want to extend it. And hopefully, if there's a chance, we want to extend it towards Makati. So people, you don't have to
Mm.
jog on the street. It's
Yeah.
so sad when you see people on Saturday and Sunday, they have to go to the street to jog because there's
Yeah.
no sidewalk.
I know, and there's, I
True,
mean,
true.
I love that they close Ayala, but in
Service
the end of the day, it's like, why does that have to happen? Di ba? That you have
Yeah.
to close a main thoroughfare.
Yeah.
Di ba? Just to have that. I mean, it's nice from a I guess aesthetic point of view that you turned it green in quotation mark for that morning, but it doesn't really make sense.
Well, if you ask me, McKinley was the most beautiful street
Yeah.
for the longest time. Tree-lined, and you had the view of the golf course. And it's very different now because it's dominated by cars. But can you imagine if we can give a greenway back to the people?
Yeah.
If you could see the golf course again.
Yes, yes, that'd
Yes.
be nice.
Okay.
Yeah, we have to support my dad with all of his. Those are some of the projects that excite him the most.
Oh.
I have to focus on a lot of the buildings and the business, but he's already looking at some of
The
these
whole community,
bigger,
at the whole
exciting,
community.
opportunities and
He's a
projects.
visionary.
Yes,
Well, it's
truly.
because my sons do all the day-to-day hard work.
So you have time to sit back and think vision.
Yeah,
and future.
yeah.
Yes, that's very true.
Many companies survive during crises, but Neo has always emphasized a more humanized approach. No, can you share a specific instance where putting people first eventually shaped
Yeah.
and made sound that business decision?
You wanna take this?
Well, putting people first, we have to know that people are a great resource. And I just have to make a small anecdote. We hear a lot about business process outsourcing.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's really people who have the simple idea that can create a major change. Like we have a major anchor tenant with us. It's a big law firm from
Yeah.
abroad. And one of the ladies there was saying, oh, we work all day doing all these legal things. And then it stops, then, it sleep, and then we work on it the following day. And we found out in the US, you have exactly the opposite hours. So why don't we pass on the work from the US to us during the day, and then we work on it, and then give it back. So at any time,
Yeah.
it's progressing
Continuous, yeah.
24/7.
Mhm.
That was the start of this major mind change for this law firm.
BPOs, yeah.
So now they have centered in the Philippines. We do all the IT work in the area for this
Okay.
big law firm.
Yeah.
All the billings are done out of the Philippines. It just needed one lady to say, hey, things can get better. No, it's the ability to able to listen to a community. I suppose if they were all working from home, they wouldn't be sharing these ideas, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah. Okay.
Sir, just a follow up on that. Markets change fast. Which lessons from past crises still guide you, how you operate today, and how do you ensure you're staying proactive instead of just being reactive?
Well, when crisis comes, it hits everybody. And you can't help it that when times are good, everybody's bullish. When times are bad,
Yes.
everybody's negative. They never think that
Yes.
you'll never see the sunrise
Turn
again.
around,
Yeah,
turn around.
it's that mood swing.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm there to tell people, at the end of the day, this will all work itself out. There'll be another time to go, and it's really cycles. So, and sometimes you have to say real estate always makes money. Make sure you still own the real estate, though.
That's the voice of experience. Yeah. Besides providing office spaces, Neo is also known as a community driver, no? And I've seen like several signages each time I visit this building in terms of even for like daycare or so many different other stuff that you do to turn the occupants of the building into a community and not just tenants, no? Um, how do you continuously foster that sense of connection?
Yeah. Well, I'll leave that to Raymond because community we didn't have the scale before, but now that with 7 buildings and 30,000 people who go to the building during our peak, we have the scale to do many programs. And I think kudos to Raymond and his staff. They really have a dedicated team for this, and they've done so much wonders for us. So maybe Raymond should explain.
Yeah. The history there was we realized early on that we were not a big player. Before office buildings were really dominated by the large public real estate companies. And so when we were competing with them for tenants, we said, what is something that we can offer that maybe the other developers are not offering? And we thought about creating this community engagement program where, it's one thing to come into the office every day, but if we can somehow help you feel that you are part of a larger community when you come to the office, we thought that would resonate and would be something that people would appreciate. So started out very simply with a sports fest. We said, look, let's just have basketball. Let's ask each tenant to send a basketball team. We pay for the cost. We do a tournament, and then let's just see how it goes. It became such a hit.
Okay.
And the tenants just loved coming together, playing and just cheering for each other. And some rivalries were born, and it's always all fun. But that sports fest expanded, and then we started doing other activities, and now we do about 60 to 70 events a year,
Okay.
all free. If you're a member of the Neo community, if you're a tenant, you can send your staff, your team members to any of these events on a first come, first serve basis. They're all free. They're completely organized and hosted by us. And it covers a wide range of activities. And what this has done for us was really create this, I would say, bond among the tenants. So it's not just you're a tenant in a building. Yes, you are, but you're also part of the community of that building and part of the greater Neo community. And so now we have tenants who have friends in other offices and other tenants because they met each other in these activities. They see each other in these activities. So it's become something that has really set Neo apart because it's not easy to do. It takes a lot of work, a lot of effort. There is a cost to it, but it is all part of what we feel we offer as part of the Neo experience. When you become a part of our tenant roster, you're also part of our community, and that's also a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
So every new building that we develop in the future, all of the people there will be part of this community as
How
well.
long has this been going on for?
Wow, since the early days, I would say we probably started with this building, maybe in the later part of this building, so maybe in the early 2000s
Okay.
up to now. So it started off very simply with just a basketball, but has been growing
No, and I
since.
find it really a great idea because like most other buildings, it's like the employees of one office will never even know the
Yeah.
employees of the people in the same floor. Never
Sometimes they
mind the
don't
other
even know who their
floors.
neighbors are. They don't even know the companies. But then with these activities, oh, you're also from the same building, or we're on the 10th floor, you're on the 4th floor, you're on the third floor. It's just it's great to get to just provide opportunities for people to meet and get together. And again, this is one of the things that we doubled down on after the pandemic because we said, look, you can't get this feeling by working at home or working in a cafe or working somewhere else. This is something that if you come to the office, this is an experience that you can benefit from because you made the effort to come to the office. You can participate in these kinds of events and activities.
I just wanted to mention one event that I found really interesting, and I never thought that the Philippines would reach that point when they were saying, if you're a single lady and you want to travel abroad because it's so cheap, these are the guidelines. This is what you do. This is how you get from one place to the other, etc. And I was surprised how many people attended because for the first time with the airfares the way, they could really travel, but they were all scared. I'm traveling by myself. What if something happens to me? So we had the group. I think started with 30. The next time it was like 60 people attending, all going on the trip. Yeah, and when they were before the pandemic, when the airfares went down, I didn't know there was such an untapped market of people really wanting to travel, never traveling for the first time in their life.
Yeah. Galing.
What activity was really a hit among all?
So the one that I find the most remarkable for me was the street dance competition. Because
Okay.
when the team, because normally what happens is we say, let's do a workshop on photography or let's do a sports fest. It comes from us. Like the team gets together, we think about ideas for events, and then we just do it, diba? But this one, it was a request. The tenants came to our team and said, we have a group of dancers among different tenants. Uh, do you think you guys could maybe do some sort of competition? We'd like to perform. We just want to have a chance to perform. And when the team came to me, sabi ko, ha? Street dance? I go, baka not enough companies will join. I mean, if we go to the effort and then you have, just 2 or 3 teams. So I said, are you sure? They said, sir, they're asking for it. So it came from the community. So I said, let's give it a shot. I didn't expect it to be a big thing or whatever. Wow, super hit, mega hit. So many companies joined, so many talented dancers in these companies pala, and they just competed. And it's so nice because sometimes you do these competitions and when the winners announce and the losers, they feel so bad, and there's kind of this sila, even if they lost, the fact that they danced, they performed, so positive. The community feeling was so positive. So that was one of the breakout hits in terms of our community events, having that street dance competition. I could never, in my wildest dreams, imagine that it would be a great event for us, but it turned out to be
And who represented
amazing.
your office? Who represented Neo? Was it
So
you?
so we only joined the exhibition. Yeah. We seeded some of our team members to join the exhibition, but we never competed ourselves.
Speaking of camaraderie, technology oftentimes isolate people, but you use it differently. How is Neo leveraging technology to actually enhance human connection and community inside the spaces rather than using it just for efficiency?
Yeah. So we look at technology across many different aspects, right? So I think when we talk about our community events, right? So again, we have, aside from just holding events, we started using these platforms like Viber to bring the community together so that they can see the announcements. We started using technology more for touch points because the difficult, like my dad said, 30,000 people come to the buildings on a typical day, right? I mean, we're 80 people in our company. How do we touch, I mean, all of those people? It's difficult, right? So technology for us is the way for us to be able to touch them, whether it's a newsletter, whether it's making them part of a chat group, whether it's even as simple as the website. These are for us touch points. I think is the key thing for us. That's how we can make our community be felt across all of the people who come to the buildings, because without technology it'd be very hard for us to be able to reach all of those 30,000 people, right? So our hope is we can leverage this even more. So the question is, how do we get all of those people who come to the offices today really feel like they're part of the Neo community? I mean, if you ask me, we're not there yet. If they come to an event, they feel it. But how many? We only have 60 events a year. Can't accommodate 30,000 people, diba? So that gap, I think, is where technology is going to come in. How do we connect and touch base with all of those people within our community using all of these tools available to us, right? That's the other part of technology that we're really studying on, is really at the building operational level. That's really efficiency, talking about sustainability. When you reach a certain point where you've been able to get to very good levels of efficiency, very good levels of resource use, very good levels of performance, the next level can only be achieved with technology. That's how you go from here to here, because you've done all of the low hanging fruit. You've done all of that already. If you want to improve further, you have to start using technology tools. And that's what we're looking at right now. What are the tools that will enable us to further enhance our efficiency, our impact, our productivity beyond what we've already done?
Yeah. Mr. Rufino, no? Let's talk about the changing landscape. Everyone talks about how the real estate market's now increasingly crowded. But ironically also, since the pandemic, people also talk about how office space is not as much in demand, no? How do you marry the two in terms of the vision for NEO in the near future?
Well, as Raymond was saying, we're always challenged because there's the work from home and there's the AI challenge. So who knows what the future will bring. But we have to be always what they call flexible and look for alternatives. So in the offices, we want to be always best in class, and we have the location, so we want to improve on the experience. I was quite surprised that one of our tenants, because traffic sometimes entering BGC is problematical. It takes so much time.
Not only sometimes.
You mentioned McKinley, everybody's headache. But anyway, for some of them, for example, very interesting enough, the moment you get into their shuttle of the company bus, this internet, it's already you're already logged in. You're already inside the office. So if you're late, it's already you're already there. You're already signed in, right? So I think we're trying to adapt very quickly as much as possible. And as I mentioned to my son, we also have to be ready because I have been in industries. Well, there are always challenges. Something will change. Digital world is upon us. So we also want to be part of the digital side. So we've also ventured in terms of real estate to a data center because we think asset classes for real estate, data centers are very much in now. So let's also plant a foot there just to be ready. But basically, our bread and butter is really the office building. So we tend to concentrate on that. And our next project, when we do it, has to be really different. It will be sort of like our third. I would say we've been to two generations of our buildings because we've been around for 20 years. But we're very excited about our third generation, our eighth project.
Which will be within BGC.
Yeah.
Or you're looking at each other. You're not sure.
Coming soon.
Because the data center, I would presume, is outside BGC.
Yeah,
no?
of course.
Because of
That's
course,
the one in Laguna, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. On that note, this year we launched our new vision for NEO, our new vision statement. And we spent a bit of time thinking about how do we want to look at offices moving forward and look at our business. And so our new vision is a very, very bold statement, which is simply, we create places that bring people together. And I think when we talk about AI, talk about work from home, talk about all of these challenges, I think the core challenge for us is if we can create places where people want to come and want to come together in, then I think that is what's going to be the defining factor for success. Because if we're focused purely on providing walls, lights, aircon, that's so commoditized, right? But if we're able to create places, experiences where people want to come, and by wanting to come, they can unleash the power of togetherness and community, I think that will allow us to continue to be relevant and successful. So this year it's really about looking at the entire experience of what people have when they come to the offices and say, guys, it's not just coming to four walls and windows. You're coming to a place to be together with your office mates, the leaders of your company, interact with your customers, interact with other people. Because in that interaction, that's where you can really unleash all of this, impact and productivity, which everyone wants to achieve.
We've
Good.
touched earlier in the conversation about LEED, Verde well, but not many people know that Raymond also is one of the persons who spearheaded the Verde, no? Which is the local Green Building Council ratings board. No?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about Verde and where that came?
Sure. Thanks, Philip. So Verde is Building for Ecologically Responsive Design Excellence. It is the national green building rating tool for the Philippines. It was created by the Philippine Green Building Council, which I helped co-found many, many years ago in 2007. We're actually turning 20 next year. So we're celebrating our 20th anniversary next year. So Verde was created as a rating tool to be able to provide a third-party method for people to really assess whether a building is sustainable and green or not.
Yeah.
Because the idea was every developer was going to say that my building is green because it helps from a marketing standpoint. It's very nice to say that. But how does the public, how do the tenants, how do the users know that it's really green? So this rating tool is audited. It's provided by the Green Building Council. We have auditors that check all of the submissions, and you get a star rating depending on how green your building is. 1 star means you just passed and you're compliant. 5 star means you're a world exemplar in terms of your performance.
Okay.
Verde and LEED have the same objective. They provide a third-party measurement for the sustainability performance of buildings. LEED is a product of the U.S. Green Building Council. Verde is a product of the Philippine Green Building Council. Between the two rating tools, I'm happy either way. As long as a building gets rated versus not getting rated or certified, I'm happy. If you go LEED, it's okay. If you go Verde, it's also okay.
But but question, with LEED though, you don't have actual ocular visits, no?
No. LEED is you submit it to
The
an
plans, you
online
submit the
portal,
plans,
and then they just review it,
And
electronically,
then
right?
they'll still charge you an arm and a leg, no? But
Yes.
whereas Verde, because it's local,
Yes.
you can actually send people to substantiate. Diba? 'Cause
Correct.
submission of plans is one thing. What happens
Yes.
in the actual execution?
Well, the reason why we have site visits as part of Verde is because unfortunately we understand Philippine industry. Not everything on plan actually gets done and built. So that's why we have audits. That's why it costs a bit to get certified, because we have to send people to really verify. Because if you want people to believe you're really green, someone has to double check that what was in the plan was actually really built, right?
Yeah.
The reason why I also like to push Verde is because I always tell my fellow developers, other real estate owners, if you get LEED for your building, you're supporting the U.S. Green Building Council. They don't need your money. If you use Verde, you're supporting the Philippine Green Building
Who
Council.
needs your money?
We need all of the support because it's been difficult.
I know.
20 years where it's really been an uphill struggle for us to survive as an organization. We are the largest green building organization, but it's been so difficult for us to continue to survive because it's such a difficult, challenging environment. So we need all of the support. Verde was created by Filipinos for Filipinos. It's managed by Filipinos. If you support Verde, you're supporting all of our work, not just for buildings, but whether it's support in legislation for greener and greener buildings, whether it's supporting LGUs in looking at how they can do green building frameworks like Mandaue. I think we spoke about this earlier. There's so much great work being done, but all of this needs support. And Verde is one of the easy ways that owners and developers can green their building and also support the greening of Philippine real estate.
Correct me if I'm wrong, no? But with Mandaue, the idea is that the LGU in Mandaue now actually says that any building that has to come up within the municipality has to have a Verde certification.
So only within the planned unit development. So they have certain sections of the city called the PUDs where Verde is mandated. But outside the city, it's voluntary. And what happens is if you do it, you get certain benefits like, tax breaks and things like that if you decide to get your building Verde certified. So it's a combination of voluntary and mandatory depending on which part in the city you're
And so,
developing.
I don't know. I mean, if ever there is an appeal coming out of this sit-down episode, it would be for LGUs to recognize that Verde exists and that it can actually help push the green agenda that any LGU would foster.
Yeah, we'd like to invite LGUs. We work with a lot of LGUs, helping them with their green building frameworks, providing them systems and a pathway to develop, a program for their city to be able to encourage and incentivize green buildings. And so Mandaue was the most successful partnership we have had, but we look forward to working with more municipalities and LGUs to be able to green more of our buildings. So we're on social media, Philippine Green Building Council. We're on LinkedIn, we're on Instagram. If you Google us, we have a website. I'm also available on LinkedIn. They can look for me, and I'm happy to get connected there as well. Yeah.
So it's Verde thinking about your future in terms of the building industry. So hopefully, as Filipinos, we support it because I'll make the comment. I guess from a marketing standpoint, people still look for the lead, the edge, or the well because whether we like it or not, there is still that colonial vestige
true.
of a colonial mentality among
Yeah.
Filipinos. No, that as you're marketing your building, you'll still think, na, hey, the U.S. Green Building Council certification will mean more than a Verde, which ironically is not true. No.
All of our buildings are Verde. All of our buildings do not have LEED, and yet we have the highest ratio of multinational tenants of any office portfolio in the Philippines. So we have, Fortune 500 companies as tenants, and they have all accepted Verde. So it's ironic that people say that. I still hear that, and I'm like, the tenants, we've not had a single tenant that said, "Oh, you're Verde, we want you to be lead." Every single tenant has said, "Oh, you're Verde, part of the Philippine Green Big Up. We accept that. That's great. We fully support it." And yet you still have developers say, "Oh, Verde, the tenants won't like that. They won't accept it. They only want lead." I'm like, I've never heard that. I've never heard that. We have some of the biggest multinationals as part of our tenancy, and they have all accepted Verde.
Okay. So I guess on that note, we're coming now to the close. And I know Len always has a question that we ask every guest that we've ever had on the sit down.
Yes, sir, if you get a chance to have your own version of the sit down, who would you want to guest?
Well, if you ask me, I will recommend a person who's been so influential in my life and I made such a big impact with Fort Bonifacio. But he's not from here. He actually lives in Minneapolis. And he's a city planner of Minneapolis. And he helped us when we did visioning for Bonifacio and master planning. His name is Tom Martinson. And he's authored a book. It's an almanac of American architecture. And he has taught me everything I know about urban planning in about a year's time, a crash course. So he led us on a world tour and he showed us the cutting edge technologies at that time, whether it was landscaping for parks or interceptor parking and all the different nuances of how to do the traffic calming. And these are words that I never knew. But now that the city is built and I see how it has worked out, I said, oh, thank God we had somebody like him. Tom Martinson.
Amazing guy. Yes.
Well, that was outside of our purview, but now I am trying my best.
For me, it's not possible anymore today, but I wish I could interview my grandfather, my Lolo Vicente. I'm a third generation in the business. Unfortunately, I never met him. He passed away before I was born. I would have loved to be able to get to know him and ask him about his journey, the family dynamics back then. I would be amazed if he was around today to see what his son and their siblings have done and to get his reaction to everything that they've done. That would be a really nice MB sit down for me.
And because that's the Rufino building, no?
Yes,
in
and I have to
Legazpi
say
Village.
that we're one of the early groups to start in Ayala. So, in fact, we're very happy that on his 100th birthday anniversary, they renamed the street from Herrera to Vicente A. Rufino.
Yes,
So that's VAR street, right? But basically, what he did, and it's exactly, it really helps me because when we started building this building, One Neo, we looked around and we said, oh, there's nobody that followed us. I said, never mind, guys. Let's just wait it out because that's the same thing when we did our building in Ayala.
Yes.
We were all alone together with a few other buildings and it came.
Yeah.
And I've seen that happen so often. So that's, I think I leave it to my father and his brothers and siblings that they ventured into Makati early and did one of the first buildings there. Thank you.
And thank you very much for joining us on
Philip.
this sit
Thank
down.
you.
For having
Really
us.
happy to have
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So
Thank you.
till the next episode, thank you again for watching.